For our critical lens video project, we decided to research the historical lens.
A historical lens is a different or interesting way of analyzing history in writing that explores the social, political, cultural, and economic context of the text. An example of this lens could be The Book Thief. And the historical lens applies to when the work was written and also when it is set.
Some types of historical lenses are cultural, which explores traditions, music, clothing, values, race, religion, and gender. Economic, which explores trends, socioeconomic, or class/status. Political, which is party strife, relevant court cases, or platform topics. So how does the author make commentary on or implement these topics to reinforce the meaning of the piece? Social would be common notions of racism and prejudice or relevant social justice issues. An example of social would be The Book Thief, due to its setting in World War II and the effects that it has on its characters. A question that you could ask is how the theme impacted the presence of the events in the story and the time it was written.
So one example that we talked about was The Interlopers, which was written in the early 1900s during the onset of World War I. So the mention of wolves at the end of the passage alludes to the position of Germany after World War I and the harsh terms of the Treaty of Versailles. And then the presence of the tree, which incapacitates the two main characters, could also reference the position of Great Britain and France and the United States and the onset of World War II.
Another example that could be examined with the historical lens is Unbroken by Laura Hillenbrand. It was written in 2010 but takes place during World War II. Unbroken tells the life story of Louis Zamperini, an Olympic runner and military aviator in World War II. He survived being lost at sea and years of horrific abuse as a prisoner of war in Japan. In this story, we can take in consideration the political context. So how does a novel taking place in World War II and Louis Zamperini being an American soldier reinforce the meaning as the whole? And then another question you can take into consideration is the author's bias throughout the story. And then an overall question is, upon reading the text, how was your view on the given historical event changed?
A third example is Heart of Darkness, which was written in 1902. So looking through a racial lens, racism is portrayed through Marlowe and the other sailors' views of the slaves' culture as they journey down the Congo. Marlowe sees them not as sentient beings, but as savage creatures with odd tendencies. And then looking through a socioeconomic lens, the wealth and greed of the English sailors parallels the greed and power of the British monarchy during this time period. So, considering the time period, and the inability to view different cultures around the world as we can today through social media and other platforms, was Marlowe's awe of the cultural practices of the slaves racist?
Okay, and some useful questions that you could use while examining a text with the historical lens are, after reading the text, how has your view of the given historical event changed? Why might readers at a certain time and place find this work compelling? How does the author's past affect the way that they might have written the work? Or in other words, could the author be biased about the subject at hand? And what is the author's worldview and how could it affect his or her writing? And these are our sources.